Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. In today's tutorial, we're getting in the spirit of Valentine's Day with the sweetest of sundresses that's a cute and flirty way to celebrate. Speaking of, by now y'all already know the drill, but just in case you're new, all of the date-worthy crochet tutorials and patterns are here with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 580 grams of yarn. That's 1,075 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you have any other hobbies besides crochet. At the moment, I don't, but I would love to get into other fiber arts. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook, and we're all going to get started with our cable stitch detail. It's going to start off the same for everyone, no matter what size we're making. So we're all going to start by making a chain 16. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Starting with the yarn over and inserting our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, insert with a half double crochet. So insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over, into that following chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. We have just completed our row 1. Now let's get started on our row 2. That's going to be a single crochet row, so chain 1. Flip our work and put 1 single crochet into every stitch for a total of 16 again. Everyone's row 2 is now complete. Now let's get started on our row 3. So it's all chain 2 and flip our work. So getting started on our row 3, or our first cable stitch row, each of our post stitches are going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on our row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 1. We're all going to get started with our first front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. Finding the first half double crochet from our row 1, making sure we are skipping that chain 2, we're going to bring our hook down underneath the body of that half double crochet through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. That is our first front post treble crochet. Then from here, we're all going to do a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So start with a yarn over of 1, 2, 3. Taking a look at our row 1, we're going to skip 1, skip 2, and insert our hook underneath the following. So again, skip 1, skip 2, underneath that following, insert your hook underneath that body, yarn over, pull through. Then again, yarn over, pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now another front post double treble into that following. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times again. Into that following stitch, we're going to insert underneath, pull through. Then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now that those 2 stitches are complete, we're now going to be doing another set of 2 front post double treble crochets worked into the 2 stitches that we skipped over. So yarn over 1, 2, 3. Into that first skipped stitch, bring your hook back, underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, and again, yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, 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 and another one into that following skipped stitch. So yarn over 3 times again. Bring your hook back into that skipped stitch, underneath and through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then from here, we're all going to do a set of 2 front post treble crochets. So yarn over twice. Just into that following stitch from our row 1. Bring your hook underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, pull through, yarn over, and continue to pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left. Another front post treble into that following. Underneath, pull through 2, 2, 2. Then from here, we're going to finish off this cable stitch detail with our dividing stitch, which is always going to be a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. Underneath that following stitch, pull through 2, 2, 2. Now this cable is complete. Now we're going to separate our 2 cables with just a chain 1. Then we're going to get started on the next one. So start with our dividing stitch, which again is always a treble crochet. Yarn over twice. Since this is our dividing stitch, just this first stitch for this side of the cable is going to be worked into that same stitch that our previous dividing stitch was worked into. So underneath the body of that occupied stitch, bring your hook underneath through the other side, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then we're going to do this cable. This cable is going to mirror this cable over here. So we're now going to get started with 2 front post treble crochets. Yarn over twice. Underneath that following stitch, bring your hook underneath, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop on our hook. Another front post treble underneath that following stitch. So far we should have our dividing stitch and 2 front post trebles. Then from here we're going to do a set of 2 front post double trebles. So yarn over 3 times. Skip the following 2 stitches and into that next with 1 front post double treble, pull through 1, pull through 2, pull through 3, pull through 4 times, another front post double treble into the following, so yarn over 3 times again. Underneath that following stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now from here, we are going to work into our 2 skip stitches, but now working in through that window that we just made for ourselves. So getting this one started, yarn over 3 times again. We're all going to hang on to our working yarn because it can very easily fall off and pull our work down towards us. Finding those 2 skip stitches in through that window. Here's my first, here's my second. Into that first skip stitch, bring your hook back, underneath the body of that stitch, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. That is what our work should be looking like so far. We have another front post double treble to do, so yarn over 3 times again and hang on to your working yarn. Pull our working yarn down, then into that next skip stitch, bring your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, and again, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now we're going to close off this row with 1 front post treble crochet, kind of like our dividing stitch, so yarn over twice, underneath that following available stitch, which should be the second to last, pull through 2, 2, 2, and close off the entire row with just 1 half double crochet into the last stitch from our previous row. Now this is what we should all have for our row 3 so far. Now everyone's even number row is going to be a single crochet row, always. So what we're going to do is chain 1, flip our work and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way across, including into that chain space, and then I'll meet you back. We are back and everyone's row 4 is complete. We're now going to get started on our row 5, so chain 2 and flip our work. Now, just as a fun fact, each of our cables are going to be repeated in our following cable stitch row, but in reverse. And the cable that started our row 3 is going to end the cable stitch detail for row 5. So let's get started on this one. Like I said, it's going to be a repeat of our last cable for our row 3. So we're all going to start with a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. Now we want to make sure that we're still working into our previous odd number row. So since we're currently working on a row 5, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 3, or that'll be a little bit easier to see because they are all our post stitches. So finding the post stitch from our previous odd number row, insert with 1 front post treble crochet. What we're going to do from here is 2 front post treble crochets into the following 2 stitches, so yarn over twice. Finding that following stitch from our previous cable stitch row with 1 front post treble into that following stitch with another front post treble. Then from here we're going to yarn over 3 times, skip the following 2 stitches, and into the 2 stitches after that, 1 front post double treble into each of those. So skip 1, skip 2, underneath that following with 1 front post double treble crochet. There's my first. We're going to do another one. Then working into the 2 skip stitches, 1 front post double treble crochet into each, working in through that window. So yarn over 3 times. Hang on to our working yarn and pull our work down, finding those 2 skip stitches. Here's my first, here's my second. Inserting my hook underneath my first with 1 front post double treble, so pull through, yarn over, and continue to pull through 2 until we only have 1 loop left on our hook. Just like that. Then work into that skip stitch as well, so yarn over 3 times again. Bring your work down, finding that second skip stitch, insert your hook underneath, pull through, and pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. Our cable stitch detail is complete. Now we're going to close it off with our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble. So yarn over twice. Into that next stitch with 1 front post treble crochet. Now into that chain that we made, we're going to do an increase of 3 half double crochets. So just to make sure we're inserting our hook into the right stitch, we're going to skip 8 stitches from the previous row because we took up a total of 8 stitches for our cable stitch detail, and an increase of 3 half doubles into the 9th. So just counting that out together, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So into that 9th stitch with 1 half double, same middle stitch with a second, same middle stitch with a third. Now we're going to close off this row with our cable. So starting with our dividing stitch, always yarn over twice. Underneath that next available post stitch, insert with a front post treble. Then from here, we're going to yarn over 3 times, remembering that our cables are mirroring each other. So we're going to skip the following 2 stitches and then put 1 front post double treble crochet into each of the following. So again, skip 1, skip 2. Into that next with 1 front post double treble crochet. Another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. Then working into the 2 skip stitches, so yarn over 3 times. Into that first skip stitch with 1 front post double treble. Into that next skip stitch with another front post double treble. Then into the next 2 available stitches, 1 front post treble crochet into each of those. So that's a yarn over 2 and continue to pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. And then another one into that following stitch. And now to close off the row, which is always just going to be 1 front post treble crochet and 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. And that is our row 5. From here, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 6. So we are back. Our first 6 rows are complete. Now for the cable stitch detail, it is going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6, but our alpine stitch detail is going to be done the same way our falling row is going to be done. So to get this started, chain 2 and flip. Since we're getting started on our row 7, we're going to do a repeat of row 3's cables. So doing that together quickly, we're going to yarn over twice. Finding that front post treble from our previous cable stitch row, insert with 1 front post treble, then yarn over 3 times. We're going to skip 1, skip 2, 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those. There's my first, into that following stitch with my second. Then into those 2 skipped stitches, 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those as well. There's my first, into that next skip stitch with my second. Next, 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. There's 1. There's my second. Then always finish off our cable stitch detail with a front post treble crochet. Now what we're going to do from here is going to be our alpine stitch detail. Now the increases are only going to be within the alpine stitch detail, not within the cables. So how we're going to do our alpine stitch detail increase is we're always going to start and end with an increase of 2 half doubles. So counting out 9 stitches from our previous row, and do your increase of 2 half doubles into that 9th stitch. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Into that 9th stitch, insert with 2 half double crochets, so there's 1, and then there's 2. Now into that increase from our previous increase of 3 half double crochets, into that middle stitch, insert with 1 front post double. So how we're going to do that for our alpine stitch detail is yarn over once. Underneath that middle half double crochet, bring your hook underneath and through the other side, yarn over and pull through. Now we always want to make sure that when we're doing this, when we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're pulling up nice and tall to get the same height as the half double crochets. Then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And since we just have 1 more stitch left, close off this alpine stitch detail with an increase of 2 half doubles. So yarn over, we are going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row because that front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and into the next, 1 half double, into the next with another half double. Now just as a really quick tip, each of our alpine stitch details will have 2 more stitches than our previous alpine stitch detail. So since my last one had 3 stitches, the one that we just did here should have 5. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to close off our row with our cable stitch detail. So yarn over twice. Doing our dividing stitch, insert with a front post treble crochet. Then yarn over twice again. Insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through 2, 2, 2. Again, underneath, pull through 2, 2, 2. Then from here, skip 1, skip 2, into that following stitch, insert with 1 front post double treble, into that next stitch with another front post double treble, then working into the skip stitches in through that window that we just made, 1 front post double treble into each. So pull our working yarn down, finding that first skip stitch with 1 front post double treble and then 1 into the following as well. We've just completed those 2 stitches. Then with our dividing stitch, 1 front post treble and 1 half double crochet into the last stitch from our previous row. Now everyone's row 7 is complete. Now just to do our row 8 and 9 together, chain 1, flip our work, put 1 single crochet into every stitch for our row 8. Our row 8 is complete. Now let's just get started on our row 9 together, and then I'll let you do the rest on your own. So chain 2, flip your work. we're all going to start with our repeat of row 5's first cable. So to talk you guys through it, yarn over twice. Underneath the body of that first stitch with 1 front post treble crochet. 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. 1 front post double treble crochet. We're going to skip 1, skip 2, and 1 into each of the following 2 stitches. Then 1 front post double treble crochet into the 2 stitches that we skipped, working in through that window. Now that our cable stitch detail is complete, our front post treble crochet, which is our dividing stitch. And now we're all going to do our alpine stitch detail. So starting with the 9th stitch from our previous row, start with an increase of 2 half double crochets. Yarn over into that 9th stitch with 1 half double, same stitch with another half double crochet. Then what we're going to do from here is yarn over into that second half double crochet that we have from our previous alpine stitch row. We're going to insert with a front post double. Now we want to make sure that each of our stitches are staggered from the previous row. So a front post double will never be worked into a front post double because that would end up giving us some ribbing, which is really nice but not what we want for this piece. So once we put that front post double into that half double, a half double crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over. You're going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row and into the next with a half double crochet. Then into that following stitch from our previous alpine stitch detail, another front post double. So insert your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. And since we're at our last stitch from our previous alpine stitch detail, we do want to make sure that we're closing it off with an increase of 2 half doubles again. So yarn over. Skip 1 stitch from our previous row, into the next, with 1, with 2. Now just to make sure, we should all have 2 more stitches than our previous alpine stitch detail. Now our previous one had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one should have 7, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're looking pretty good. From here, we're going to finish up with our cable stitch detail for a repeat of row 5, so start with our dividing stitch. Then we're going to yarn over 3 times. Skip 1, skip 2. Underneath that following stitch, 1 front post double treble crochet into that stitch and into the following. 1 front post double treble crochet into the 2 skip stitches. Then 1 front post treble crochet into the following 2 stitches. Then close off the row with our dividing stitch, which is a front post treble, and 1 half double crochet into the last stitch from our previous row. Now what we're going to do from here is repeat our 4 previous rows until we now have a portion that can reach from our waist up to where we'd like the depth of our desired neckline. So placing this first row right at our waist for everyone, then just continue to repeat those 4 previous rows, and if you guys need timestamps, they will all be linked in the description, by the way, until we get the depth of the neckline that we want. So if you guys would like to show up a little bit more, do fewer rows, or if you would like to cover more, do more rows. But either way, I will meet you back right after a single crochet row when we're about to get started on a repeat of our row 5. So we are back. I have just completed the height of my cable stitch detail. I have a total of 20 rows. My height is roughly 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to get started on our cups. So first thing we're going to want to do is insert our stitch marker into our 2 middle stitches. Now we should have 2 middle stitches for everyone, no matter what size we're making. So I'm going to insert my stitch marker into the 17th and 18th stitches. Now from here, we're going to get started on our following row. Since we all should have ended right after a single crochet row, right before we were about to get started on a repeat of row 5's cable, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, do our repeat of row 5's cable, and do the same increase and alpine stitch detail that we have been doing normally all the way up until we reach our first stitch marker stitch. So we are back. We've made our way all the way down and we're worked into our stitch marker stitch. Now from here, everyone's even number row is still going to be a single crochet row, but now since we want a little bit of height, we're going to start and end the row with a single crochet, with every stitch in between being a half double. So chain 1 and flip. Into that first stitch, insert with 1 single crochet. Then 1/2 double crochet into every stitch and close off the row with just 1 single crochet into that last stitch. Our following even number row is complete. Now everyone's following row is going to be another cable stitch row with no increases and no decreases. So chain 2, flip your work. Start our repeat of row 3's first cable. Then do the same increase and alpine stitch detail until you reach the end of the row. Now everyone's last stitch should be a front post double crochet, but since it's the end of the row, I'm going to meet you back before we do that last stitch to show you how we're going to secure that down. We've now made our way down to the end of our row. We should all have just 1 stitch left. Now everyone's last stitch for this row should be a front post double crochet, but we're just going to combine that front post double with a half double to secure everything down. So starting with a yarn over, we're going to insert our hook into the last half double crochet from our previous alpine stitch detail, pull through. Again, pull up tall, yarn over, pull through 2. When we have these 2 loops on our hook, what we're all going to do is yarn over and insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row. So you may need to pull this apart just a little bit. And into that last stitch, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through to get a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then from here, yarn over, pull through all 4, and now this row is complete. Now our even number row is going to be the same, so chain 1, flip our work. Start with 1 single crochet into the first, 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and single crochet into the last, and I'll meet you back. So our first 4 rows for our cup are complete. Now what we're going to do from here is chain 2, flip our work, then start a repeat of row 5's first cable, then do our same increase and our alpine stitches the same way that we've been doing this entire time until we all have 4 stitches left. Then I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to decrease. We are back. We've made our way all the way down with our cable and alpine stitch detail, leaving the last 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. Now to get a really nice curve, we're all going to do a decrease of 4 double crochets. So what we're going to do is yarn over into that following stitch, pull through, stitch right after that, pull through, next stitch, pull through, and last stitch in the row, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through the first 5 loops to get a total of 2 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through 2. Now we should have 2 less stitches than our previous row. What we're going to do from here is our same even number row, so chain 1. Start with a single crochet, 1 half double crochet into every stitch, closing off the row with just 1 single crochet again. We've just completed our first 6 rows for our cup. Now just to get started on the following one, which is going to be my last, chain 2, flip our work. Get started on our repeat of row 3's first cable. Get started with our alpine stitch detail the same way that we normally do, leaving the last 4 stitches, and then I'll meet you back. So we've made our way all the way down, leaving the last 4 stitches. Now we're going to do another decrease of 4 double crochets. So yarn over into that next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 5 loops, then yarn over, pull through 2. And now we are completed with this portion of our cup. So go ahead and do a chain of 1 and cut. Since we have just finished up with our right cup detail, we're now going to get started on the left. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side up, and we're going to insert our hook into our next stitch marker stitch. Now we're going to work towards the outer edge. So we're all going to insert our yarn onto our hook and start with a chain 2. Now what everyone's going to do is start with 1 front post double crochet. So we're going to yarn over. By the way, that chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to find the half double crochet from our previous alpine stitch section, which should be directly underneath where our chain 2 is. We're going to insert our hook underneath, through the other side with our normal front post double crochet. So pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now so far for this row, we just have 1 stitch. Remember that chain 2 doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then we're going to half double crochet because that's what we would normally do. We're going to yarn over. For this half double crochet though, we're just going to half double crochet into that following stitch. We would normally be skipping a stitch, but that chain 2 is in that available stitch. So just into that next available stitch with 1 half double crochet, just for this one. Then again, yarn over into the body of our following half double crochet with a front post double, And this is per usual. We're going to yarn over, skip one stitch from our previous row because that front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and half double crochet into the next. Then from here, we're going to continue with our normal front post double and half double crochets until we make our way all the way down, working our last front post double crochet. Now I've just worked my last front post double crochet. We are still going to be closing off this alpine stitch detail with our increase. So per usual, yarn over. We're going to skip that following stitch and into the next with an increase of 2 half double crochets. So for this first cup row, it's kind of the same the way that we normally would have done all of our other rows, but now I just have that little split in the middle. Once we have that, we're going to close off the row with a repeat of row 5's left cable. Then I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Our first left cup row is complete. Now our single crochet row or even number rows are going to be the same for everyone. So start it with a single crochet, 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and close it off with another single crochet. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our following row. So our first 2 left cup rows are completed. Let's do our third, which is a cable stitch row. We're going to chain 2 and flip our work and start with 1 half double crochet into that first stitch, remembering our alpine stitches are still staggered. Then yarn over into the half double crochet from our previous alpine stitch detail of front post double. For this row, we're going to continue to repeat our half double crochet and front post double all the way down, remembering that we are still doing our increase at the end of our alpine stitch detail. Then close off the row with a repeat of row 3's left cable, and then I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Our third cup row is now complete. Now we're going to do our following even number row. So chain 1, flip our work. 1 single crochet into the first and into the last with 1 half double crochet into every stitch in between. Then I'll meet you back to get started on our decrease row. Our even number row is complete. Now let's get started on our first decrease row. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 2 and flip. And starting with a decrease of 4 double crochets for everyone, we're going to yarn over. Into that first stitch, pull through, second, pull through, third, pull through, and fourth, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 5 loops, leaving us with 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we're going to do a front post double crochet. So just finding the half double crochet that's underneath that following stitch that we have, we're going to put 1 front post double crochet into there. So yarn over, underneath that half double with a front post double. Then per usual, yarn over, skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch, into that next with a half double crochet. From here, continue with 1 front post double and 1 half double crochet, working our way down. Remember, we are still closing off our alpine stitch detail with our increase of 2 half double crochets. Then close off the row with a repeat of row 5's left cable, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. This cable stitch row is complete. Now let's all do our even numbered row. Single, 1 half double into every stitch with a single in that last, and I'll meet you back. We've made our way down with our even number row. Now we're going to do our last cable stitch row. So chain 2 and flip and start this row with a decrease of 4 double crochets again, so yarn over. Into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, and next stitch, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then we're all going to yarn over, pull through 5, leaving us with 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, preparing for a front post double crochet. Underneath that following stitch should be a half double crochet from our previous alpine stitch row. So into there, insert with 1 front post double, then continue on with the rest of the row per usual. Continue with our front post double and half double crochet, making sure that we're still doing our increase at the very end of that, then closing off our row with a repeat of row 3's left cable. Then I will meet you guys back to get started on the side panel. We are back and both cups are completed. Now we're going to get started on our side panel. So from where we're at, we're going to chain 1 and flip and do a single crochet row along the edge. What we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochet into every side row, starting with 2 single crochets. So this is our first side row. Side of that half double crochet, we're going to insert with 2 single crochets. So insert with 1 into that same side row with another. Now into that following side row, which should be a single crochet row, find that top loop and insert with just 1. Let's do that once more. This is my following side row, so insert with 2. There's 1. There's 2. Our following side row, which is a single, find that top loop and insert with 1. Continue this to reach the end of the row. Our single crochet row is complete. Now we're going to do a back loop slip stitch row for some ribbing. So we're going to chain 1 and flip. And all we're going to do is insert our hook into that back loop or the loop that's furthest away from us, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. Again, next stitch is back loop, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. We want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly, otherwise the falling row will be too tight to work into, but just continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Our back loop slip stitch row is complete. Now we're going to get started on our following half double crochet row, so chain 2 and flip. We're all going to start with a decrease of 3 back loop half double crochets. So yarn over. Into that first stitch is back loop, we're going to insert, pull through. Next stitch is back loop, insert, pull through, and into that next stitch is back loop, yarn over, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Then from here, yarn over and pull through all 5 of those loops. Then put 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches. So yarn over. Into that next stitch is back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and continue with 1 back loop half double into the rest of our stitches. Our half double crochet row is complete. From here, it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows. So just to get it started, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back to get started on our decrease for our half double crochet row. Our back loop slip stitch row is complete, so now let's do a chain 2 and flip, and start with a decrease of 3 back loop half doubles. So yarn over, into that first stitch is back loop, pull through, next stitch is back loop, pull through, next stitch is back loop, pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, and continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. So we are back. We have just completed our back loop half double crochet row. From here, like I said, it's going to be a repeat of these 2 previous rows until this height that we have is roughly 1 inch underneath our underarm. So we want to make sure that we're placing this first row where our waistband would be. Then once we have this height that we need, we finish right after a half double crochet row. And once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now just after these rows, I am actually complete. So I'm going to cut and we can get started on the other side together. So getting started on the other side, what we're going to want to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side up. Then insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail because this ribbing isn't reversible. Then we're going to start with the same single crochet row and slip stitch row that we did for this side. So insert your yarn onto your hook. Alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, starting with 2 single crochets, and make your way all the way up. We should have the same amount of stitches as this side's single crochet row as well. Then at the end of that row, chain 1, flip your work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of that slip stitch row. So our single crochet row and back loop slip stitch row are complete. Now we're going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 3 stitches, and I'll meet you back. So I've made my way up with my back loop half double crochet row, leaving the last 3 stitches. Now just like the other side, we're going to do a decrease of 3 back loop half doubles. So yarn over into that third to last back loop, we're going to insert, pull through into that second to last back loop, yarn over, pull through, and also into that last back loop. Then yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. Then our falling row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. And from here, all we're going to do is continue to repeat those 2 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows that we have on this side. Then I'll meet you back right after our last half double crochet row. So we are back, and this decrease portion is complete. From here, we can work straight into our back panel, and that's just going to be back loop half double and back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases. So from where we're at, chain 1, flip our work. Put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, then at the end of that row, chain 2, flip your work, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. We're going to continue to repeat those 2 rows, again with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around. That can wrap around our back over to this first row that we have right here. Then I'll meet you back right after a half double crochet row to seam it up. So we are back. The entirety of my back panel is complete. Now counting from my first back panel row, not into any of these decrease rows, so from this first slip stitch row, I have a total of 56 rows. Now that width is roughly 12.5 inches or 32 centimeters. Now we're going to seam everything up. So now we're going to fold our work in half, making sure that everything is slipped right side out, and we're going to do an outside loop slip stitch seam. we're now going to do an outside loop slip stitch seam to make it look like another back loop slip stitch row. So start by finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. Next stitch into that back panel, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything. And we're going to continue doing that till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. So we are back and we have just completed seaming up our sides. Now what we're going to do from here is work straight into the bottom band. So since we should already be along the bottom, all we're going to do is chain 1 and do a single crochet row. So what we're going to do is put 2 single crochets into every side half double crochet row and 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row. So let's get that started. Everyone's first side row should be a side half double crochet row. So I'm going to start by finding that top loop and insert, starting with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 into that same top loop with a second. Our following side row is a side slip stitch row, so find that top loop, insert, and single crochet with just once. And that's it. Continue with 2 single crochets into every side half double, 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row. Now once we reach our cable stitch detail, we should have just 1 side single crochet row, so just 1 single crochet is going to be worked into there. Then 1 single crochet into the bottom of every stitch, then just make your way all the way around. Once this row is completed, try your piece on. This single crochet row is going to be as wide as a portion can stretch, so if it's a little bit too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip, and then I'll meet you back. So now that we've made our way all the way around with our single crochet row, we're now going to make a chain, the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. So right after we slip stitch in that chain space, I'm going to start by making a chain 10, which is roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're going to slip stitch into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook. So insert, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. And from here, continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain, remembering still not to tug too tightly after every stitch. So we've just put 1 slip stitch into every chain, now we're going to connect it into the base. So finding that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So skipping over those 2 stitches into the base, we're going to insert into the last stitch from our previous row's back loop and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. So we are back and our first 3 rows are nearly complete. Now we're just going to connect it into the base together. So inserting into that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Remember that that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that's it. We're going to continue to repeat those 2 rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around. Then I'll meet you back to seam it together. So we are back. We have made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam everything together. But this seam is going to be done the same way as our side seam. So I'm just going to talk you guys through it. Making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then do the same outside loop slip stitch seam that we did for the side. Then once we don't have any more stitches left, do a chain up 1 and cut. Then we get started on the top band. So before we get started on the top band, we all need to make sure that we insert our stitch marker into the middle side row that we have within the back panel. So all I did was count it in 1 side row on each side at the same time until I met my 1 side row. It should be a side slip stitch row for everyone. And just to let you guys know, starting from my first single crochet row right here, I inserted my stitch marker into the 34th side row. Should have the same amount of rows on both sides, and now we're going to insert our hook into that side row and single crochet all the way around. So we're all going to start by putting 2 single crochets into every side half double crochet row and 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row, the same way that we did for the bottom band. Once we make our way all the way around and reach the top of our cup, we are going to have 1 last side single crochet row in between our side slip stitch row and our cup, so 1 single crochet is worked into there. Then put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Now once we reach this last stitch here, I'll meet you guys back to work on the inner part of our cup. So we've just made our way all the way around our back, across our cup, and now we're going to work into this inner portion of our cup. So we just have some side rows to work into, so all we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, starting with 2 single crochets. So into that first side row, which should be our side cable stitch row, we're going to find that top loop and start with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, into that same top loop with a second. Our following side row should be a side single crochet row, so find that top loop and insert with just 1. And that's it. We're going to continue to do this until we don't have any more side rows left to work into on this side of our cup, and I'll meet you back. So I've just made my way down my cup and we're into our last side row. Now we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into this last stitch right here, just so we know where one of our middle stitches are. Then we're going to do the same thing, working our way back up. So I'm going to take out this stitch marker for now. Then just working into that following side row, we're not going to be working into any of those stitches into the bottom. Start with 2 single crochets, so there's 1, and then there's 2. Don't forget to insert your stitch marker into that first stitch so we know where our 2 middle stitches are. Then from here, continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we reach our stitches, 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then continue with our 2 single crochets into every side half double, 1 single crochet into every side slip, making our way all the way back, and then slip stitch into that chain space. Let's do a chain of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed our single crochet row along the top of our piece. Now we're going to get started on our top band. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to insert our hook into one of our middle stitch marker stitches within the front panel. We're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, start with a pull through, then with a chain 1. Now once we have that chain 1, into that same stitch that our chain 1 is in, we're going to insert with 2 single crochets. So into that same stitch that our chain 1 is in, we're going to insert, starting with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Once we have those 2 single crochets, we're now going to slip stitch it into the base. So working out towards the top of our cup, the next available stitch into the base is just that next stitch. So insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base and flip our work. Now what we're going to do from here is 1 back loop slip stitch, then into that last stitch an increase of 2 single crochets. So making sure we're not working into any of those stitches into the base, finding that last stitch from our previous row, insert, starting with just 1 back loop slip stitch, and we're going to close off the row with an increase of 2 back loop single crochets. Now we're doing back loop single crochets for our increase instead of slip stitches because it's a little bit easier to do because the slip stitches can easily get lost and it basically looks the same anyways. Now at the end of everyone's row 2, we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches. So getting started on our row 3, we're going to chain 2. That's going to count as our increase for the following row and flip our work. Starting with the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a back loop slip stitch. So insert into that second chain from our hook with a slip stitch. Then from here, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So at the end of our row 3, we should all have a total of 4 stitches. And now that we've made our way all the way down, we're going to slip stitch it into the base. So we're going to find that next available stitch into the base and insert with a slip stitch. Now the way that we're connecting it is basically the same way that we connected the bottom band. Now let's get started on the following row just as a refresher. To work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base and flip our work. And from here, just put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, making sure we close off the row with an increase of 2 back loop single crochets. We are back and we have all just completed our row 4. Now we should all have a total of 5 stitches at the end of our row 4. Now from here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we get the height of the top band that we want. Now I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm actually all done right after my first 4 rows. So all we're going to do from here is continue to do our back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, the same exact way that we did the bottom band, all the way down until we reach our tail end. Then once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side, but we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the edge of this last row that we have, just so we know where to stop the seam when we get there. Go ahead and get this portion of the top band completed, but when we do the second one, do not do a chain up of 1 and cut because we can go straight into the seam together from there. Alright, so we're back. We have just completed both sides of our top band. Now we're going to seam it up together. As you guys can see, I've already went ahead and seamed mine up, but it is going to be the same seam that we've done for this entire piece so far. So just making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we're going to do our same outside loop slip stitch seam so we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up one and cut, then we're going to seam the front. So when it comes to seaming the front, it's going to be roughly the same way that we've done all the other seams. The only difference is that we don't have actual stitches to work into. We're going to be working into some side rows. So making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to start by inserting our hook into the 2 stitches that we have that both of the top bands are coming into, so into that single crochet row. Then we're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do is find that first side row within the front panel, which is this top loop for me right here. Find that next top loop within the back panel, which is that first top loop right here. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. So we're doing another slip stitch seam. Let's do this again. Find that next top loop within the front panel. Next top loop within the back panel. Then yarn over and pull through everything on our hook, and we're just going to continue doing that until we reach our stitch marker stitches, and once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we are back. We have just completed seaming our top band. Now what we're going to have to do is our strap, just for a little bit more security. So what we're all going to want to do is try our piece on. Now the strap is going to be completely up to you, so we don't have exact stitches and measurements to work into, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. Once when your piece is on, you're going to be inserting your stitch markers into the stitches where you'd like for the strap to connect within the front panel. Now I would like for mine to kind of align with this outer pillar that we have right here, so I just traced that all the way up and inserted my stitch marker into that side row within the top band and repeat it on the other side, but yours can be closer in, further out, that's completely up to you. Then we're going to be inserting our stitch markers into the top of the back panel as well, right where we'd like for them to connect. Now you guys can do a crisscross, it can be further out, further in, that is also completely up to you, but mine are just going to be straight up and down, so I'm just inserting my stitch markers into those side rows. Then what we're going to do from here is insert our hook into our stitch marker side row and make a chain that can reach up and over our shoulder to our other stitch marker that we have. Now I went ahead and already measured mine out. I need roughly 12.5 inches or 32 centimeters, so I'm going to insert my hook and start by making a chain 50. Once we have our chain, we are going to slip stitch it into the side row that our stitch marker is in. So I just inserted my hook into that top loop and also made sure that my chain isn't twisted. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through everything on our hook to secure. That doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then just to sturdy up our strap, we're going to slip stitch into that following side row that we have. Flip our work and just put 1 single crochet into every chain just to make it a little bit more sturdy. Then once we make our way all the way back, I'll meet you back. So we've made our way all the way down our chain with our single crochet row. Now we're just going to connect it into that following side row, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. Now all we're going to do is just find that next side row and slip stitch into there and do a chain up 1 and cut, but we do want to make sure that this single crochet row isn't twisted. So just in that following direction, insert with a slip stitch, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and repeat on the other side. Both of our straps are now completed. Now we're ready to get started on the bottom. So what we're going to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to insert our hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of our bottom band. Then we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row. So starting with the chain 1, that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, we just want the height. That's just to secure. Then 1 single crochet into every side row, and this is my first side row. So I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1 single crochet. This is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1 single crochet. And again, my following side row, which is this divot, insert with 1 single. Following side row into this top loop with a single crochet. From here, we're going to continue with 1 single crochet into every side row, making our way all the way around, then slip stitch into that chain space. Now just as a really quick tip, this single crochet row will be as wide as this portion can stretch, so once when it's completed, try your piece on. If it's a little too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. So we are back. Our single crochet row along the bottom of our piece is complete. Now from here, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom to be. Now you can make this as long or as short as you'd like, that's completely up to you. I'd like for mine to be maybe mid-thigh, maybe a little bit higher, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 55, and that's roughly 12 inches or 30 centimeters. Now once we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And from here, we're going to yarn over into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, and we're going to insert with a half double crochet. So we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Then continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. So we have made our way all the way up with our first row. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So what we're going to do is, finding that first available stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch, and that slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then we do need to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch into that following stitch, into the base, still doesn't count as a stitch, and now we're going to flip our work. And now put 1 back loop half into every stitch. So yarn over into that first stitch from our previous row, not worked into any of those slip stitches into the base. We're going to insert into that back loop, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 3. And from here, continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, put 1 back loop half into every stitch. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We are back. We've made our way down with our row 3. Now we're going to connect it into the base. Now, because we would like for it to ruffle up, we're going to slip stitch it into that same stitch that our previous row was worked into. So into that same occupied stitch, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. And now this row is completed, and also that slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch still. Now we're going to work our way up to the following row. So slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Flip our work, and 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Then, just to connect it together once more, at the end of that row, chain 2, flip our work, 1 back loop half into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of that following row so that we can connect it into the base again. So we are back. We now have a total of 5 rows completed, and we're now going to connect it into the base together once more. So, just like how we did our previous row, we're going to slip stitch it into that same stitch that our previous row is coming out of. So that's how we're going to connect. We're going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything. Remember that that slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch, flip our work, and repeat. From here, we're just going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases, no decreases, until we've made our way all the way around. Once we have, I'll meet everyone back so we can seam it all up together. So we are back. We have made our way all the way around with our back loop half double crochet rows, and now from here we're going to seam everything up together. So we're all going to make sure that our work is slipped wrong side out. Then insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. Now we're going to do a single crochet seam. So finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert. First stitch into the back panel, insert, single crochet. Again, next stitch into the front, insert, next stitch into the back, insert, and single crochet, and that's it. From here, we're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way up. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up a 1 and cut. So we are back. We have just completed seaming up the bottom, and now we are all done. Now the last thing we have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.